Okay, we're starting today with this. 30 is pi over 6. Then this one is, well, if you got stuck and you were like, I don't remember this, you put 180 in here. And then you go, 18 divided by 3. Is that a 6 in it? Oh, yeah, 60. And this one's 90. And this one's 45. How many of you had all of them? Excellent. Okay, on to the next one. Where is 5 pi over 3? Where is 5 pi over 3? When you draw a line from the center out at that angle, at that spot. Here's the process. Here's where pi is. Here's where 1/3 of the way to pi is. And then you go 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and that's a really good checkpoint. You stop here and you go, that's 3/3. Yeah, that makes sense because 3/3, the 3's would cancel, you know. And then you go 4/3, 5/3. Raise your hand if you were right there. All right. Now, would you please figure out what sine of 5 pi over 3 is? To do that, you'll need to make the reference triangle. But what is sine of 5 pi over 3? I'll pause for a second and give that a try. Okay, let's see if we got the same thing. I make my triangle like this, and then this is, well, what kind of triangle? I look back to the pi over 3's and know that they're 60s. All of these are 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60. See how that works? Okay, so if that's 60s all the way around there, then this must be a 30. And then the one across from the 30 is a 1. This is a 2. And this is the square root of 3. Now, is there one of them that's negative? Yep, this one's negative, right? Here, I'll change the sign to make it pop. Negative root 3. And then sine of it is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite from what? Opposite from this. All right, opposite is that. So negative root 3 over hypotenuse is 2. Is the hypotenuse ever negative? Nope. So it's positive 2. So there is my answer. All right, now let's analyze this question again. Sine of 5 pi over 3. Do you get they gave you the angle? And what you got for them, you know, like to answer the test question, you gave them root 3 over 2, and it was negative. This is the angle part. They gave you the angle part, and you got them what is called sides. You got them side ratios, technically, because you divided them. Okay? So is it different then when I say sine of some angle is 1/2? Yeah. This time I gave you the what? Sides. And I want to know the angle. All right. Would you please draw me one of these dudes? And remember that it's got 4 possible quadrants and 2 of them have sign positive. Therefore, there's 2 quadrants where you should draw this triangle. And therefore, there are 2 angles that work here. I'm going to pause for a second. I'd like you to think like you and your partner, the person that you sit next to, are like a team here, and that you can work together to get this. So maybe like after you figured out what quadrants you think it's in, compare with them. Like, are you doing it in quadrant 1 and 4 or whatever? All right, so work together with the person next to you and come up with 2 answers. And last thought, make them in radians. So it's fine to get like 60 degrees as your answer, or 120 as your answer. But then you need to convert it to radians because almost all the answers are going to ask you for this. They're going to say your answers need to be between 0 and 2 pi. And they usually will say not 2 pi. Like there's like that symbol, a less than 2 pi, meaning you can't say 2 pi. Because what should you say instead of 2 pi? Because they're the same exact thing. 0. Because do you get 0 and 2 pi both live right there? So you don't have, you gotta either say 0 or you say 2 pi. You wouldn't say both. as your answer. So this is an important statement you're going to start seeing more and more, and it'll be on your test all over the place. And you need to understand that means your answers are between 0 and 2 pi. So that means bigger than 0, which means your answers can't be negative either. Do you get this is giving you some limitations? Like, you better keep it positive, and you better not go over 2 pi for your answers. All right, talk to that partner. See what you guys come up with. Where are your triangles, etc. So where were you? Well, sine was positive. All of them are positive in this quadrant, so you need 1 in there because sine's positive there. And then where's the other place sine is positive? That's what that means. That's what that S means, is sine is positive here. So that means it can't be here and it can't be here. Do you get that part? Sine is positive in those 2 quadrants. All right, so then I'm going to draw my triangles here and here. Remember, I always make them short and fat because I don't know whether it's a long, skinny one or not. And trust me, if you draw a long, skinny triangle and you label the tiny angle as 60 because that's where it has to be, it gets so confusing. So always make them short, fat triangles. All right, so now, if you know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, that's how you know where the sides go. From here, opposite is 1 and hypotenuse is 2. From here, opposite is 1 and hypotenuse is 2. And then don't you need that third side? Sure, but I've memorized it. Maybe you have too. Square root of 3, square root of 3. There's only one negative in this whole thing. It's right there. Okay, are you with me on where the sides are? Okay, then how about the angles? What's across from the 1? It's a 30. So 30 is a right answer. 30 is one of my angles that works. But I did say I wanted it in radians, so let's convert it over. 30, we just talked about that a second ago, pi over 6. Who had written a pi over 6 on their virtual paper? All right, do you get how I did that? We're going to keep practicing this until you get it. We're going to do another couple because these are on your test and they are not easy, I know. But they're really just one little step at a time. This is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. All right, so now the next one. I'm going to go to this angle here. It's got to also be 30. Server, why don't I just say 30 again? Because that's not where 30 lives. It's actually here. Please talk to your partner then about what that answer should be, because it's not 30. It's a bunch of 30s. I'm going to pause. We're going to talk to them about what you think that should be, since it can't be 30 again. Okay, it's always hard to tell with Monday morning, and this is a hard concept. How many of you are getting it? How many of you think you know this answer, the answer for the second angle? Raise your hand nice and high so I can see. All right, thank you. Good, we're about half. That tells me a lot. It tells me, where people are struggling and stuff. So this angle here, you know that the answer is 30, kind of, but then that's the reference angle. This is the real angle, and it's much bigger than 30. So this has to be like a bunch of 30s, like 30, 60, 90. See what I'm doing here? Plus another 30 would make it 120, plus another 30 makes it 150. How many of you had 150? Awesome. And if you do it in radians, that's 5 sets of 30, right? So 5 pi over 6s. That's what lives at that spot. So the answers for this were 5 pi over 6 and 1 pi over 6. 30 and 150. All right, let's do another one that's like that. This time we'll say cosine of theta is negative 1/2. Did I give you the sides or did I give you the angle? I gave you the sides. And I want to know what the angle is, because again, the angle is right here, and it's a variable, so I don't know what it is. So you have to figure out for me what that angle is. Well, step 1, where's cosine negative? Hopefully, you've gotten used to, this is probably our 35th circle with the x and y axis and the ASTC around the edges. Draw that, figure out where the quadrants are that were cosine's negative, draw 2 triangles, and then figure out their reference angles, and then figure out their real angles, which are for sure, pro tip, not going to be 30, 60, or 45. The reference angle will be 30, 60, or 45. Like if I draw a triangle in here, this is the reference angle. The real angle is all the way around to there. All right, it won't be in that quadrant though because cosine's negative, so it can't be here. That should be one of the first things you rule out. Same with that, can't be there. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute. You and your partner together help each other between the two of you. Maybe you can pull off the two answers that are between 0 and 2 pi. As in, I don't want negative answers, and I don't want you to ever say 2 pi. I'd rather have you say 0. And this also means radians. Like you see the pi there, right? I didn't say 360. So therefore, I'm saying I want radians. So when you see this, that's a hint. My answer is radians. Okay. I need to get a feeling here. How many of you would give yourself a better than 50-50 that you got this? All right, good. Then, here's my triangles. I draw one here, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I gave you the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. And that means this is the square root of 3. And then I always go across from the 1, and I say, so that's 30 up there. And then this must be the right angle, and this must be 60. And then I know my answer is in pi over 3s. But pi over 3 itself is right there, and it's clearly not there. So it's not pi over 3. It's 2 pi over 3. And then, if I'm going to continue to this other one, here's this little secret that I haven't been telling you till now. But you don't even have to draw this whole triangle out. You can just know, oh, the other spot's here. So I go 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and that other triangle doesn't even need to be all labeled and everything. You see what I mean? Because I can kind of use logic to know that's where it is. 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. In between was 3 pi over 3, which made sense because that's where pi lives. So 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. All right. How many are we at this time? Raise your hand. Be honest, because this helps so much to know whether we're done practicing or not. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's just do one more, and then hopefully we get almost everybody on board here. This time, the only twist is that I'm going to say secant of something. And you got to know, oh, wait, I got to flip this puppy. Do you flip the angle? No. There's no such thing as flipping an angle, but you can flip the sides. This one's just like the other ones. You just got to do a little flip first. And now, draw your triangle, figure out the two angle answers. Pause, we give that a shot. Before we go too far to make sure that you aren't on the wrong path, secant is sister function with cosine. So we're using cosine. And then did you flip this over to make it root 3 over 2? There. Because I've flipped it, now I can use this exactly the way it is. I don't have to flip my angle answer at the end. I already did the flipping. That's been flipped. All right. So then you start thinking, he's given me two sides. But cosine is positive, so it must be here and some other place where cosine is positive. Oh yeah, A, S, T, C. Cosine's positive down there. Now my pro tip for you on the last problem was that you just need to make one of the triangles really nice. So let's make the blue triangle really nice with all the stuff in it. Cosine's adjacent, hypotenuse. That side must be 1. 1, 2, square root of 3. And then across from the 1 is a 30. And how come it is 30 this time? Because look where it is. It's in the first quadrant. That's where 30 degrees actually is. So can I say 30? Well, kinda. It's just that I want it in radians. So therefore, it's pi over 6 is your first answer. Who had the first answer? Right. Okay, good. Do you get that the other answer has to be a whole bunch of pi over 6s? Because look, I'm not going to even label it. I know I got to go all the way around to there. And then along the way, you're going to hit some pi over 6s right here that give you pi, right? So therefore, 6 pi over 6 will be there. So just keep on counting it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pi over 6. And if this one was 30, this one also must be 30, but we can't say 30 because we have to give a positive answer. Now, if I didn't have that rule on negatives, one of my kids just a minute ago asked me, can I just say the answer is negative 30? That would be right, except that these always say the answers have to be positive. You can't use negative 30. It would be negative 30. But in this case, it's a whole bunch of pi over 6s, and I hope you counted it up. And I personally would just go all the way to here and say that would be 12 pi over 6s, but that's too far. Back it off 1, 11 pi over 6. Who had the final answer right? Cool. I feel like you're getting this. And you don't have to be an expert yet. Test isn't tomorrow. But the test is, it's going to be this week, and I'll be telling you for sure. My gut says that right now it's set for Wednesday, meaning that tomorrow's the review day, and then the test is Wednesday. Part of it is we got to be careful because this is Heart Week, and things get a little crazy this week, and we don't want to have the test on the same day that they're singing telegrams and all that stuff, because not that we can't, but it's a little distracting, and so you can put a sign up that says you can't enter, but I don't know. I'll try to schedule around it. So, all right. So what else do we have to know? All right. Let me give you one last major kind of problem that we got to be good at. What if I say, here's my circle, and I tell you that we're going to stay between 2 pi over 3. No, wait, I'm wrong. 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. You've never seen an interval like that before. But do you get intervals that are trying to say you can go between here and here? Well, think about where that is, and therefore, what quadrant did I just put you in? Well, you got to kind of know where 3 pi over 2 is, and one of these I'd memorize. That's 3 pi over 2. And 2 pi, that's right here. So if I'm going to be between them, do you get I'm in here? And if I said, what is sine in there? Well, you could tell me it's positive or negative. Sine in that quadrant would be what? Negative. You are correct. So there's sine, cosine, and tangent. And sine in that quadrant is negative. Because the only thing that's positive in there is cosine. Positive. Sine's negative, and tangent's got to be negative. That's all you have to answer for those is pluses and minuses. There's like 3 questions like that in your homework. All you got to do is answer, is it positive or negative? All right, next one. Everybody try this one, and this time I'm not going to help you as much because you kind of see how they work. What if I said we're between pi over 2 and pi, and we want to know what sine will be, cosine will be, and tangent will be. And all I need is a plus or a minus. Don't overthink this. It's just asking you, is sine positive there? Or is sine negative there? I'll pause. I want you to talk over where we are. That's what's critical. Does the kid know which quadrant we're in here? Okay, pi over 2 was here, and pi was here, so we're in there, and that means we're in the AS quadrant, aka the quadrant 2. So then sine's positive there, and the other two are negative. Boom, boom. You guys get that? Okay, those are They're not meant to be hard. It can be confusing to start with, but now I hope those will be like a happy place. All right. One more reminder of little things that you have to memorize. In terms of y's and r's, what are sine, cosine, and tangent? In terms of y's, x's and y's and r's, this is just one of those things you gotta memorize. By challenging you with that, it should make you remember it better on the day of the test. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the answer might be x over y. It isn't, but something like that. Okay, compare with your partner. Keep yourself organized. It's always good.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Thought it was extra. All right. Y over R, X over R, and Y over X. We good? Okay. Why would you ever need that? Because I give you a problem like this. That spot right there is at 1 comma negative 4. You can then draw a line to it and then answer the question, what's sine? But you haven't given us all the stuff we need. You're right. You have to figure out all 3 sides of the triangle that you can draw. And would you please just figure out sine? Because I know once you got sine, you'll have everything. Okay, so here's your triangle. Sine. Oh, wait, I got to label the triangle sides. So that looks like it's 1 because it's really short. And this is going down 4, so that's minus 4. And then the radiuses are never negative, so the radius is the hypotenuse, 2. Like, the reason we call it radius is because you could make a circle around it like that. All right, and then that last side there, that reminds me I got to know how to find that last side. Square root of 4 squared, 16, 1 squared, 1. And am I on the longest side? Yep, so I add them. Who had square root of 17? You are correct. Get how I got that? Okay. And then sine is opposite of hypotenuse from this angle's perspective. So sine is opposite, negative 4. Hypotenuse, radius, square root of 17. Now, I used opposite and hypotenuse. Did you hear me talking like that? Even though it was really y over r, it's still opposite over hypotenuse. You'll get the same answer. Okay? The radius, the y over r thing really comes in handy when I say, I'm going to give you this spot right here. It's pi. And I don't give you any numbers. Now would you figure out what sine is? Again, changing the problem. I'm just saying, what's sine of pi? It's not a mystery angle, Mr. Saver. It's pi, sine of pi. But they didn't give us any numbers. Yes, they did. Because I know where pi is, I can always use zeros and ones for that spot. All right. Talk to your partner about what's what and what you think the answer to this is. What is sine of pi? It's just one thing. Okay, and you should have had y over r, but I don't have a y. Oh yeah, I put in zeros and ones. That spot is at negative 1, comma 0. It's how far over and then how far up. And then if I have to be on the unit circle, I'll use a 1 for my radius. So now my y is that part, 0, over my radius is 1, and you have to know that that one's just 0. Who had 0 for their answer? Sweet. Then my work here is done. All right, let's go to the Schoology quiz. I'll start it with you. Your job to just finish it. If you get stuck, remember, it's going to give you the answers at the end. If you have to get a few wrong because you're like, I don't know how to do number 6, it's okay. Just submit. It'll tell you the answers, and then you can go back and process that. Learning like what it was is really important. That's why I feel strongly about posting the answers after your first try. Because if you get a few wrong, you'll be able to see what the answer was, and that hopefully leads you to the right final conclusion. All right, which is to learn this stuff. Number 1 of the Schoology quiz. Garrett, would you read me number 1? I will come back to you for number 2. Tully, you got number 1? Theta?
Yeah.
Okay.
An angle in standard position and its terminal side passes through the point 3, 4. Find the exact value of secant.
3 comma 4. Okay, I can find 3, 4. So everybody draw a picture. It always ends up being a triangle. Oh, well, unless you're on a quadrantal. And then it comes down to that y over r thing. All right, so 3 comma 4. Where is my 3 comma 4? Over 3, up 4. Put a dot. Draw a triangle around it. To do. And then what has to be the 3? This has to be the 3. And then this has to be the 4. Ooh, I know this one. 3, 4, 5. Cool. So then what's the point? What do they want to know? Secant. Okay. I peacefully refuse to do secant. But I got to remember that when I do the other function, I got to flip not the angle, but the answer. So I'm going to say not secant, but I'll do the other one. What's the one that's like secant? Cosine. So I'm going to do cosine, but I'm going to put a 1 over just to remind myself that whatever I get, I got to flip it. So I can't just change secant to cosine. I got to remember to flip it. That's why I put the 1 over. All right, so now I'm really just going to try to figure out cosine. Cosine is ka, adjacent, hypotenuse, 3/5. So why am I not going to type in 3/5 as my answer? Because it's 5/3. That's what secant really is. That makes sense? It's just 5 over 3. So you do cosine, but then you can't leave it that way. You flip it. All right. I would love it if you would come up when you get stuck. Actually, what I'd really, really love is that you trust the person next to you enough to say, what'd you get for number 2? I'm stuck. And then if you together both don't know, I'd love it if both of you came up and I could explain it to you, both of you at the same time. I think that'd be perfect. All right, that's all I got for you for today.